Hey y'all, it's me again, Mr. Jordan810 here, and I'm here to give you my review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 stars Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Karen Gillan, Pom Klemeef, Michael Rooker, and Kurt Russell. And what this film is about, the film is about when the Guardians, after defeating this beast at the beginning, which were assigned by these gold people, the gold people track down the Guardians, and the Guardians actually crash land on a planet. Later on, they meet Peter Quill's father, Ego. And Ego shows Peter Quill, Gamora, and Drax the Destroyer to his main residence in the planet, while Rocket Raccoon and Baby Groot try to see if they could rebuild the ship and fix it, while keeping an eye on Gamora's sister Nebula if she escapes the ship to just anywhere. And just further on goes on, but I'm not going to say what else. So going in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I was really looking forward to this film. I could not wait for this one. Seriously, I was so pumped. It was honestly one of my most anticipated films of this year, 2017, besides Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, which comes out at the end of this year, and Spider-Man Homecoming, which comes out in July. And just others. And my expectations were pretty high for this film. And honestly, it was everything that I would expect. And yeah, I did really like this film. I really did like this one. So let's go into my positives. And my positives are the acting. The acting is really good here. You know, Chris Pratt really does a great job as Peter Quill / Star-Lord. You know, him with his father, Ego, who's played by Kurt Russell, he does a really good job here too. It's not perfectly explained, but at least we get to see, a lot of it here. The relationship between Peter Quill and his father, Ego. And yeah, I did really think it's actually, good here. And yeah, their performances are good here. Yeah, so Chris Pratt does a really good job here as Peter Quill Star-Lord, and Kurt Russell does a really good job here as Ego. Zoe Saldana as Gamora. She does a really good job here too, and her story with Nebula, which is her sister, played by Karen Gillan, who also does a good job here. And I have to say, like, Nebula was actually more fleshed out here. Like, she was better used here than in the first. Because the first, she was, like, a very, like, underused antagonist, honestly. Like, a side antagonist. But she actually has much to do here than in the first. And I really did like how Gamora and Nebula's relationship and their backstory was explained here. And I just really liked that. So, yeah. Zoe Saldana does a really good job as Gamora, and Karen Gillan does a great job as Nebula. Drax, Dave Bautista as Drax the Destroyer. You know, he's a maniac and he's funny. Yeah, he's definitely more funny here than the first, and so yeah, he's like the comic relief, and whenever we get to the scene with Drax and Mantis, it's also really funny here too. And yeah, Mantis played by Pom Klemeef, really, she's weird, honestly. You know, she's a weird character, and you know, she said if she touches someone that she can feel their feelings. And you know, you'll find out in the film who she touches first. I'm not gonna tell because it's really funny, so you guys should see for yourself. But anyway, so yeah, Dave Bautista does a really good job here as Drax the Destroyer, and Pom Klemeef does a really good job here as Mantis. Vin Diesel as Baby Groot, you know, he's adorable and cute, you know, and funny too. You know, as we were all expecting Baby Groot to be. So yeah, even though he only says "I am Groot," like that's it. Even though just like in the first, you know, he's still that. So yeah, Vin Diesel, yeah. Bradley Cooper is Rocket Raccoon. Of course, he's explained in one word: awesome. And yeah, he does an awesome job here. And I thought it was kind of interesting to put Rocket Raccoon and Yondu together. Yondu played by Michael Rooker. Um, their story is a bit more explained here. Well, Rocket's because, everyone hates Rocket Raccoon, and yeah. But anyway, Michael Rooker is Yondu is honestly my favorite character in here. In the first, he was a really underused character, honestly. Like, he was just underused. Like, he didn't really have nothing to do in the first, but just capture the Guardians and stuff like that. But here he actually had much to do here, and his relationship with Rocket Raccoon and Peter Quill, especially. So yeah, I really enjoyed Yondu here, and Michael Rooker does a really good job here. So yeah, the acting is really good here yeah. The cinematography looks beautiful. Like, you could definitely tell, like, they did a really, really good job here. Like, you see all the colors of Ego's planet and the shine to it, and even in space. Like, it looks really... And the action sequence is still good here. But I'm going to have to say, for the most part, the action sequences... There are very little action sequences in here than in the first. Like, it's... Like, you can definitely tell that this film is much more about characters than have an actual story and more action sequences to it. But still beautiful cinematography. But in the first, there's actually a main story and, great character development and more action to it and beautiful cinematography. Whereas in this one, there's more beautiful cinematography and character development than actual main story and action sequences. So yeah, it does look nice. Um, so here are my problems with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And my problems are being the gold people. The gold people were just honestly there to be there, honestly. Like, they were just unnecessary throughout the film, honestly. Like they were just there to just straight up capture the Guardians, honestly. Like, they were just like, they were just there to be there. Like, that was honestly just unnecessary of the gold people just to be around. The other problem, like, in terms of humor, there's a bit of the humor that really is just like, really misses, honestly. Like, there's a bit of the humor here that really falls flat. But I'll say this: it's definitely much more funny than it's more funnier than the first. I'll say this film is actually much more funnier than the first. I'll say, especially with Drax and Mantis and Yondu and Rocket Raccoon and Baby Groot, those characters. But like, between like the humor that's aimed after them, like, it's really funny, I'll say. Oh, and my other positive I forgot to mention is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is really awesome to hear. Awesome Mix Volume 2. There's a lot of songs here. I really like The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. That was honestly my favorite song in the soundtrack. And my last problem with the film is, like, there's, like, story bits of story bits that kind of mix up, honestly. Like, one scene, it's Peter Quill and his father, Ego. Next scene is Gamora, Nebula. Next scene, it's Rocket, Yondu, That was another problem I did have with the film. But, so overall, I really enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I mean, it's not like the first film where there's actually a main story and more action sequences. And it's definitely not like Captain America Civil War, where there's one thing going on and the other being, like, the villain. There is a villain in here, but I'm not gonna say, like, what the purpose was, but you're gonna have to see the movie to find out. So yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 a very, very, very recommended 3.5 out of 5 stars. which is like a B plus on my average. I gave the first film 4.5 out of 5, which is an A. But yeah. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a really enjoyable film. I mean, just like the first, but at least it's still a good film, unlike the first for being a new film. So, what did you guys think of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you dislike it? Just let me know. This is Mr. Jordan 810 here, and I'll see you later.